In a sunny apartment in Miami, United States, lives Lara, a 26-year-old girl with dyed purple hair and a restless spirit that defines her as a free soul. Daughter of Brazilian parents, she grew up in Florida with her mother, a resilient woman, who tolerates her escapades with a mix of love and concern. Lara is driven by adrenaline, by challenges that make her feel the pulse of life. But she carries an emptiness that not even she can explain. Her father, a reserved man who returned to Brazil after his divorce, is a distant figure, almost a stranger who she visits sporadically in São Paulo. This time, however, Lara has a premonition. This trip will be different. "You're going to get in trouble again, aren't you?" the mother murmurs while Lara packs her bags, her tone full of suspicion. She just laughs, but deep down she knows that the danger attracts her like a magnet. Upon landing in São Paulo, the humid heat and chaos of the metropolis envelop her like a wild embrace. Her father greets her at the airport with a restrained smile, his polite words hiding the emotional barrier between them. "A friend of mine, Marcos, is coming by my house tomorrow," he mentions casually, without imagining that this name would light a dangerous spark. Lara settles in her father's modest house in the Jardins neighborhood, feeling the contrast between the apparent calm and the vibrant energy of the city. She looks out the window, her eyes shining with curiosity as the setting sun paints the sky in orange tones. There's something in the air, a whisper of change, a promise that São Paulo will strip her of her layers and reveal desires she didn't even know she had. The conflict is already insinuating itself. An impulsive young woman, a forbidden man, and a game of seduction that threatens to cross all lines. I would like to take a brief break to ask for your like and subscription to the channel. You are helping us a lot with this simple gesture. And I would like to know which city you watch us from. The next day, the backyard of the house in Jardins is filled with voices and barbecue smoke. Lara, wearing a light dress that dances in the wind, watches her father's guest with a curious smile. It is then that Marcos enters, a 55-year-old man with a presence that silences the room. Tall, tattoos peeking out from under his shirt, he exudes a vitality that belies his age. "A pleasure, Lara," he says, his gaze too fixed, his voice deep like low thunder. She feels a shiver, but hides it with a wave. Marcos is married to Lara's father's cousin, a woman absent at the party, but whose shadow hangs over him. He laughs easily, tells stories of travels through deserts and seas, and Lara finds herself hanging on every word. "Have you ever been to Vegas?" he asks, eyes shining. "Not yet, but it's on the list," she replies, her tone challenging. The father, oblivious, cuts meat on the barbecue, while the tension between the two grows like an electric current. Later, alone on the balcony, Marcos gets her a beer. "Your father said you're a bit of a rebel," he teases, his crooked smile revealing more than he says. "He doesn't know half of the mass," Lara retorts, leaning a little closer. The silence that follows is heavy, filled with looks that say what words cannot dare. He is married, she is young, and the daughter of a friend. But chemistry pulls them together like a magnet. The obstacle arises the next day, when Marcos invites her for a walk through the center of São Paulo. "Let's see the side that tourists don't know about," he suggests, and she accepts without hesitation. The father, distracted, nods his approval. As they walk through the narrow streets, amid graffiti and the buzz of the crowd, Lara feels the danger growing, not from the city, but from him. Marcos guides her with a confidence that disarms her, and each brush of shoulders feels like a test. "Have you ever gotten lost out there?" he asks. Not yet, but I'm tempted, she replies, her heart racing. The warm air of São Paulo envelops Lara and Marcos as they leave the noisy center and head to Ibirapuera Park, a green oasis in the urban chaos. It's late afternoon, the sun turns fiery tones, and Marcos takes her to a secluded corner near the lake, where the trees form a veil of shadows. This is where I come to think, he says, his voice softer, almost vulnerable. Lara feels the weight of that moment. It's not just a walk, it's an invitation. Sitting on the grass, he talks about choices. Life is a game of balance, Lara. Sometimes you fall. His eyes look at her, intense, as if daring her to respond. What if I want to fall? She murmurs, her heart racing. The silence that follows is electric, until Marcos takes your hand, his touch warm and firm. You don't know what you're asking for, he says, but doesn't let go. Then, on impulse, he pulls her and kisses her. A hungry kiss, full of urgency, as if they had both held back their desire for too long. The world disappears, leaving only the heat of his lips and the sound of her breathing. But the ecstasy is short-lived. A sound of breaking branches makes them part, and a dim figure passes in the distance. A stranger, perhaps, but enough to bring reality back like a punch. Marcos walks away, his face tense. That was a mistake, he says, but his eyes betray the internal struggle. Lara, panting, retorts, "Then why did it feel so right?" He doesn't respond. He just stares at her, torn between what he wants and what he should. The event marks a turning point. That night, alone in the room, Lara relives the kiss, the touch, the guilt he tried to hide. She knows they've crossed a line, but desire consumes her. Marcos sends a message. "I can't see you tomorrow." It's a blow, but it's also a spark. His separation only makes her want more. A new challenge arises. How far is she willing to go for this man who already belongs to someone else? The days after the kiss in Ibirapuera Park are a whirlwind for Lara. Marcos walks away, avoiding her with short messages and flimsy apologies. But the void he leaves only fuels his determination. She finds herself standing in front of a steamy mirror in her father's bathroom, steam rising as she asks herself, "Who am I in all this?" For the first time, the rebellion that has always guided her seems insufficient. Now, it's about facing what she feels, not just defying the world. Lara decides to confront him. "We need to talk," she writes, her tone firm. He hesitates, but arranges a meeting at Mirante do Vale, a high point overlooking the sea of buildings in São Paulo. When he arrives, Marcos is there, the wind messing up his gray hair, his eyes full of shadows. "You don't understand what's at stake," he says, his voice hoarse. "My wife, your father. This could break everything." She steps forward, eyes shining. "And pretending nothing happened doesn't break you?" The conversation is a tug of war. Marcos admits his desire, but talks about his wife, a woman he no longer loves as he used to, but to whom he owes loyalty. Lara, in turn, exposes her soul. "I don't want to be the other one, Marcos. But I also don't want to be the one who runs away from what they feel." The confrontation leaves them exposed, and for the first time he sees her beyond the impulsive young woman. There is strength. There, a woman molding herself in fire. She starts to change. She spends the next few days exploring São Paulo alone, from Mercadão to the streets of Bexiga, reflecting on the price of desire. The father notices something different, but doesn't ask. "You're too quiet," he comments, almost surprised. Lara smiles, keeping the secret. When Marcos reappears, unexpectedly, at the door of the house on a rainy night, she knows that the decision is hers. "I'm not here to stay," he murmurs, wet and vulnerable. "But I can't leave, either. It's the final test, give in or transform." The rain patters on the roof of the house in Jardines as Lara stares at Marcos, standing in the doorway, his shirt stuck to his body and his eyes burning with a mixture of despair and desire. The tension between them has grown like a storm, and now it's about to explode. "If you go in, there's no going back," she says, her voice firm but shaking inside. He hesitates, the weight of his wife and friend hovering like ghosts, but he steps forward. The door closes behind him, sealing his fate. In the guest room, under the dim light of a lamp, they surrender. There are no words at first, just the sound of her rapid breathing and the touch of his hands, experienced and urgent, sliding across her as if mapping forbidden territory. Lara responds with equal intensity, her purple hair spread across the pillow, her body arching in a dance that is both surrender and conquest. It's more than passion. It is a revolt against the rules that surround them. "You make me forget who I am," he whispers, voice broken. "So, be who you want to be now," she responds, pulling him closer. The climax comes like a wave, intense and overwhelming, the two lost in each other as the rain outside seems to echo the chaos inside them. But the ecstasy is interrupted by a muffled sound. His cell phone vibrates on the table, his wife's name flashing on the screen. The real world invades like a blade. Marcos walks away, his face pale, pleasure giving way to guilt. "I can't do this," he mutters, picking up the phone with shaking hands. Lara stares at him, her heart in her throat. "You already did." He runs off into the rain, leaving her alone, the silence as heavy as lead. The conflict is resolved there. The delivery was real, but the price is immediate. Lara falls to the ground, knees weak, feeling the emptiness of loss and the fire of transformation. Passion consumed them, but reality won. For now. The rain slows to a whisper as Lara rises from the floor, the echo of Marcos's departure still reverberating in the room. The following days are a blur of silence and tension. He doesn't send messages, and she doesn't look for him. The void between them is an open wound, but also a mirror. Lara spends hours on the balcony of her house in Jardins, looking at the wet rooftops of São Paulo, while her father, oblivious, prepares breakfast. "You look different," he says, frowning. "Sometimes we change without wanting to," she replies, her weak smile hiding the internal storm. A week later, on the eve of returning to Miami, Lara meets him by chance at Shopping Morumbi. Marcos is with his wife, a middle-aged woman with a tired expression, choosing clothes in a store. He sees her on the other side of the corridor, their eyes meeting for a moment that seems eternal. There are no words, but his gaze carries regret, desire, and something else, perhaps gratitude. His wife pulls him by the arm, oblivious, and he goes, as if pulled by invisible chains. Lara stands, still, her heart sinking, but a strange peace invades her. It's not a forced goodbye like in the cafe in the original story. It is a silent recognition of what was. On the plane back, she looks out the window as São Paulo disappears under the clouds. The city stripped it bare, burned it, but also remade. It. I experienced something that I can't explain, she thinks, her fingers tracing the contour of the seat. The desire for Marcos has not died, but now it is a memory, a fire that warms her without consuming her. Back in Miami, her mother welcomes her with a suspicious hug. "You're quieter," she comments. Lara laughs softly. "Maybe I found a part of myself that I didn't know existed." The story ends with Lara stronger, the forbidden transformed into a lesson. Marcos remains like a shadow, but not an end, just a chapter that led her to see herself. Months later, the Miami sun bathes Lara's small studio, where she paints an abstract painting, the purple and red tones dancing on the canvas like echoes of São Paulo. At 27 now, she carries a serenity she didn't have before. Her purple hair is shorter, her eyes are firmer. The trip to Brazil left deep marks, not only on her soul, but on the way she sees the world. The cell phone vibrates with a message from the mother. "Are you going to visit your father again this year?" Lara hesitates, fingers hovering over the screen before responding. "Maybe. I haven't decided yet." In São Paulo, Marcos continues, his life, but not intact. His wife noticed something. Not the betrayal itself, but a distance that he can't explain. He still works in the same office, but sometimes stops at Ibirapuera Park, looking at the lake where he kissed Lara. "Have you ever thought about changing everything?" a colleague once asks casually. Marcos smiles bitterly. "I think more than I should." He doesn't look for her, but he keeps a photo of her that his father once showed, hidden in a drawer, like a secret that warms and weighs him down. Lara, in turn, began to write, not about him, but about herself, about the fire that consumed her and rebuilt her. One excerpt says, "Sometimes the forbidden is not the end, but the beginning of who you really are." She reads this on a silent night, the sound of the sea in the background, and feels proud. The desire for Marcos no longer defines her. It was the trigger for something bigger. The mother, curious, asks about the texts. "They're just thoughts," Lara says, but the sparkle in her eyes gives away the depth. The future is uncertain, but full of lessons. Lara knows that love, even crooked love, can be a mirror. Marcos may never escape his chains, but she flies free. The story ends with her on the balcony, the warm Miami wind surrounding her, a light smile on her lips, not one of longing, but of someone who survived her own chaos and found peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help us, and tell us where you watch us from.